The thing that I've enjoyed most about being with these Ridge players is the sense of camaraderie. Everybody loves what they're doing. Everybody's really friendly, and just like on set build days, everybody pitches in. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
I like the variety of being able to act and direct and do backstage things as well. And it's the sort of the group of people who we've got together in the Edenbridge Players. Everybody's very supportive.
I think it's the challenge of trying to act and trying to learn lines, because that's a big thing. But in terms of enjoyment, I mean, you get a huge frisson of excitement thrill when you're performing a play. Mm-hmm. It's very hard work in the rehearsals and the run to it. And you often think, why on earth am I doing this? But you get to performance night and you're backstage and you do get a buzz. I mean, I'm lucky that I don't really suffer from stage fright as such, but you do get an adrenaline kick, and it really focuses your mind. And the performances themselves are great fun, and quite often I wish we could go on and on and on and do loads more.
It's such a lovely, friendly society. Everybody makes you feel really welcome. It's always a good laugh. It really is a good laugh. Whatever you're doing, whether it's very dramatic or comedic, it's just, good fun. And it makes you feel part of something.
One of the interesting things we do usually is to record the dialogue of each show right at the start of the process when we're about to put it together. And I love that because it basically means I get to see it at its really bare bones when nobody knows anything and we're all just reading the script. And gradually over the weeks and months it comes together and you see how it all comes together and how the set's built, and it will eventually winds up as a polished performance. So I think it's brilliant fun.
When I came, I originally started doing makeup and hair, which I enjoyed, and that there was no pressure. Then props, which can be a pressure. There's so many different things you can do with this, but also in Edenbridge Players, there's a social side, and we do meet, and we go to the theatre, we go to the pub. In the past, we've been on treasure hunts, and we take part in local quizzes. So it's actually quite a social club as well.
Madame Arcati in Blithe Spirit, you could really act it out. You could really, put it on and give it your all, and lovely costume. So it was great.
So I've been a member for 15 months. I've only been involved in 3 projects. Mm-hmm. So Flint Street Nativity, which was fun with songs and a bit crazy, and then the radio play, which was completely different because we had scripts and it was accents. And then playing Mr. Manningham in Gaslight was just extraordinary because of the size of the part. So they've all been really different in different ways, so I couldn't necessarily pick a favourite.
A very, very favourite part has got to be Aunt Marilla in Anne of Green Gables. I absolutely loved that part. And my very proud achievement from that was I actually made Chris cry in it.
Those 39 steps I found really, really interesting. It's a very, very busy play. And the thing I found particularly joyful about that was that I did the voiceover of a BBC announcer, Frightfully Posh, and that got a real laugh. I wasn't on stage. I had nothing to do with it. I was doing front of house. But when those announcements went out, it got a good laugh, and I found that jolly entertaining.
I loved being Velma in Playing Away, where I was a barmaid in a pub in Barnsley, a tart with a heart kind of thing. And that was just great fun. We had such a laugh doing that play.
My favourite play that we have ever done was back in 2012 when we did Allo Allo, the stage version of Allo Allo. And we did it because we thought it might prove quite popular because everyone knows Allo Allo. And so there were a lot of us needed. It needs a very large cast. I got cast as Hair Flick, which was great fun, apart from the fact that I had so many costume changes to go into, and some of the costumes weren't you can believe. And in fact, to this day, my favourite costume, at one part I had to be a cinema usherette. So I was in stockings, suspenders, wig, and stilettos. And it's the only time I've worn high heels, but I have to say I mastered it surprisingly quickly.
in Hello Hello, I had quite a range of costumes in one play. So I had the typical Michelle of the Resistance raincoat, and I was also a nun, and a policeman and a prostitute, all in one play.
It's Manningham's costume. I mean, when it first appeared, I was wearing kind of shirts, waistcoats, jackets, overcoats. I just thought, oh God, that's just going to be horrific. But actually, overcoats, they're a way to go. Victorians knew how to dress.
I think in Queen Elizabeth's Lecture, it was set in the 60s, so I had a mini skirt and sort of bright white shiny boots and my hair done in the style of the 60s, and I thoroughly enjoyed that costume.
I think probably the best costume was when I was in Cranford and they dressed me as a maid, and it was a very ill-fitting maid outfit, and I've got a fantastic picture of me looking ridiculous in it, and that always got a few laughs, I think, when I got on stage, so that was quite good.
I like the costumes there, yeah, all the finery and everything, and I loved my little dog that I had.
As a director, yes.
Mm-hmm.
For the play Cranford, it took me 9 months and probably about 3 months sorting out costumes in all different locations, so that everybody, especially the women, had some really lovely costumes to wear. And for them, they also had to wear their corsets and hoops. Well, certainly the hoops when we were rehearsing, because they had to learn how to walk and sit and all sorts of things in them. So that was fun.
Yeah, probably a body stocking and 2 balloons when I played a French stripper many years ago. You weren't expecting that, were you?
Just really wanting to be in charge. I mean, I'd been in several plays beforehand and been directed. And quite often when you're playing a part, there are times when you think, oh, I think I might have done it that way, or I might have cast that person, or I might have done the scenery in that way. Of course, you leave it to the director at the time to decide what's best. But I wanted to create a production in my own style, or I wanted to. So in 2012, I got offered the opportunity to direct, and chose a fairly obscure mystery play, sort of murder mystery play called Trap for a Lonely Man, which had a cast of about half a dozen or so. But what I loved about that was that I could pick who I wanted to be in it. I could design the set myself on stage, and get the sound right, get the special effects right, and it turned out exactly as I'd envisaged at the very start. So I think in terms of directing, it's not a power thing per se, but it's just nice to be in control and to get a production looking the way you really want it. But again, you still have that sense of camaraderie. You still feel part of the cast, and it's great fun. It's a challenge and it's a lot of hard work, but the end result is very fulfilling.
I think it was just the challenge of it. I'd never done directing anywhere because I've been acting since I was knee-high to a grasshopper at school and what have you, but I'd never directed, and I just really, really wanted to have a go. And the rest of the players were all behind me, so
Before I came to Edinburgh Players, I was directing pantomimes and musicals. I think it just comes to a point that when you've been doing it for such a long time, you've learned a lot, and I've been doing it on and off my whole life. And then you need to give something back. It's given me years and years of pleasure, and although it can be hard work, it's lovely to do, and it's very rewarding.
Buds of May, I think. The Darling Bud, I think that was the first one, and we had live music then. We had a brass band playing the music rather than having sound like you do the sound. We had brass music, and they played in the interval as well. That was really good. I just liked the Darling Buds of May, and it fitted in the time of the year, and so I did it. And we had quite a lot of children then, and I was still a little bit involved in the youth theatre group as well, and so it fitted good together because we had all these children available to play.
I think it's something I'd sort of directed quite a few things with children before. And then when we were talking about plays and to do with the Vicar of Dibley, and that idea came up, and we had members of players who'd be interested in being in that, but there wouldn't really have been a part for me in it. So I thought maybe I'll try directing that. And that was how that one came about. And then since then, I've directed a couple of other plays as well.
Yeah, I think I would still say the first one was my favourite one because it was the first time I'd done it, and it went down well. We got good audience figures. The cast were perfect. So that definitely, that first one remains my favourite memory. And I would say to anyone who's involved in an Amdram production, if you get a chance to direct, even if it's just once, do it, because you get to see everything from a different perspective. You're looking at the stage rather than being on it, and you get a real sense of fulfilment.
Diary of Anne Frank, purely and simply because of what it is. So none of the others come close to that one.
Very recently, after COVID, there was a hiatus, nothing seemed to be happening, and we eventually got back to doing 1 or 2 plays, and the best thing we did was Flint Street. It was uplifting. I enjoyed it. It was a challenge to get it up on the stage because a lot of people were not sure, because it is a difficult play, certainly to stage. But once we got the staging sorted out and we got the cast sorted out, we just laughed. We just laughed the whole time, and the cast put their all into it, which was lovely.
Well, I had quite a lot of plays where I was really, really pleased. Quite a lot. I always try to find a play that gave a little bit of a message, but of course, if you have a full house, that adds to your feeling of success. So I have to say, Fawlty Towers was brilliant experience. The set was fabulous. It was very difficult, and we had some disagreements amongst the set builders. Can it be done? Can't it be done? In the end, I said it can be done, and it was managed. From the creative point of view, with as a director, I think Foot in the Door or something like this was probably, or I did the Everybody's Best Friend, where we had, there were 2 plays at the set. We played one after the other, and we had 2 rooms on there, and they were all, that was just, there was so much creativity in there, and it worked so well, and they pleased me more than Fawlty Towers or 39 Steps. As a director, I always felt it was just like painting a picture, and you want to do it yourself. But if you have such strict set requirements or strict advice in the script how it's supposed to be done, then you're so limited, no?
I enjoyed directing The Vicar of Dibley as well, because that was the first time we'd done something like that, and that was really successful. And we had, I think, almost full houses, and everybody enjoyed it, and that was lots of fun to do. And I think I said in the programme for that, I was still laughing at it, even when we'd been rehearsing for 3 months.
One point in a play called Queen Elizabeth Slept It, where a newspaper was supposed to be on the seat, and it wasn't, and suddenly a hand came through the window and threw the newspaper through the window. And another really embarrassing point was I was supposed to put a letter inside a book that the particular cast member was going to read out, so she hadn't actually learnt it, but it wasn't there on the night, and I should have put it there, and that was really embarrassing. But luckily, because she'd read it so many times, she'd managed to memorise it, so it all went okay, but I was so embarrassed about that.
The most embarrassment I had was at the start of the play. We did Queen Elizabeth Slept Here back in autumn 2010, and I was in that with Julia. We were playing the lead couple, and fairly early on, our role involved us walking around this house that had been deserted for many years, and we were looking at this house. Anyway, we came on. I think it was me who said a slightly wrong line. Silence ensued for what seemed like an eternity. Myself and Julia and one other character walking around the stage, trying desperately to think of what line we could say that would get us back on track and enable us to make sense and enable us to carry on. And I mean, honestly, it felt like an hour of walking around that stage, aware that the audience would think what's going on. And I think our prompt lady was trying to whisper something from the wings to get us going again. We eventually, I don't know how we did it, but eventually we said something that got us back on track. But it was that awful moment when a blank happens or just something isn't right. And there it went. But that's never happened since.
When the last night of Fawlty Towers, there's a point where I'm in the office and I'm showing an advert for a country house in a very well-known magazine, To Basil. And we decided we'd put a sort of a little extra photograph in there for embarrassing reasons. And let's just say the person in the photograph isn't wearing a lot of clothes.
I think probably going back to when I was the French stripper, it was a play called Lucky for Some, and it was set in a holiday camp in Chalet 13. So obviously the centre was a bed, and I was quite fond of leaping in and out of this bed with various people. And on the very last night, I think it was my cousin Keith was playing the part opposite me. We sort of leapt onto the bed, and it collapsed with a very loud bang. But the best part of it was the whole audience cheered.
I think everybody needs some form of expression, and it's a small community, really. And, you know, we've got choirs and we've got other societies and pubs, of course, but amateur dramatic is very different because it brings people together doing all sorts of different things.
I think it shows, you know, the arts of everybody, and we try and do a range of plays. So that there's comedy and then there's drama, and hopefully try and spread them between plays people have heard of and plays people probably should have heard of or might like to come and see. And it's not a huge expense for everyone to go further, and we're always keen to get more people involved with all the different things that contribute to putting on the play. So backstage roles, creating the set, just helping on the night. And I think getting the whole community involved is really important.
So we do 2 shows a year, and you get to know members of the audience. I mean, you see a core audience coming to every production, plus, of course, new people each time. And it's a chance for those sort of people to meet each other at least twice in a year. They may not have any other reason to bump into each other the rest of the year, but they come to one of our plays. They get to enjoy it. They get to have a drink sort of half time or at the start as well. So it just brings the community together.
Well, I know people don't realise it, but it actually is all inclusive. It's really anybody can come. Most of us have got some sort of skill, even if it is just ripping up raffle tickets. But it's all useful and it's all part, and it brings a community together. And it's lovely to see lots of local people all coming into a place and having a good time.